an old lady with 22 kids in that TRU that you all know the size of a TRU. And 22 kids in that thing and one old man. Of course, the parents of the kids, it is said they are somewhere in Gauteng, others in KZN, others in Eastern Cape looking for a job, but they are sleeping in a TRU, being 23 of them. It's something that you have not seen before. Very, very dire. And I think that we all will leave politics and talk to the issues that is affecting our people. And we're still going to be going to Eastern Cape next week. We are going to Northern Cape and Northwest because Northern Cape has also been now affected. I'm sure Sis Nancy is struggling because she's putting you on the other line. So the meeting is duly opened, and let's take the moment of silence and observe the mediation and prayer. Moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Any apologies, Nasipo?
Good morning, Chairperson. There was an apology for Minister Mr. Mchunu, but I saw he joined the meeting. I'm not sure if he's going to leave early. And also a member who Ms. Tsege indicated that she will leave the meeting earlier due to a family responsibility. That is all.
Is it who was screaming? Tsege?
No, Chairperson, is Mamu's Friday.
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
My sister, Mom, I see so you are disrupting the meeting.
And go Vandia,
Okay. Tsege, you are contradicting my earlier proposal. If you are going to leave the meeting and I propose you share the meeting, then there's a problem. What are you saying?
Chair. Yes. I'll see what to do, Chair. We'll see what to do. Let's continue for now. Let's continue. We'll see how it goes, Chair.
Okay. Is there any other apology that I was not recorded that you want us to know, members? Your silence means there is no other apology. Can we? And I'm not sure if indeed I must use silence as a confirmation, but I want to do that unless there's a problem. No, Sipo, we are now on item 4.
Yes.
Where the briefing by the Department of Water and Sanitation. I really do want to say that the presentation is very long. It has got 83 pages. I'm not sure the format and the formula you're going to want to deal with it, Minister Mchunu and your team. But please note that your presentation is very long. It has got 83 pages. It might take a little bit long time. So when you present, please be mindful of that longevity of the report. Minister Mchunu, we are in your hands.
Minister was kicked out by your system, Chair. Omama will introduce the report on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, dear Mahlobo, Minister, DG, the honorable members of the National Assembly Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation. Let me, without hesitating, indicate to yourself, Chairperson, that today our focus is on water boards that are in the Department of Water and Sanitation. All in all, Chairperson, we've got 9 water boards. Rent Water, Umgeni, Overbeck, Amatola, Bloom, Lepelle, Machalis, Mhlatuze, and Sidibeng water boards. I need to indicate that the arrival of Minister Mkhunu in the department, we focused on making sure that we review the water boards and hence the disestablishment of Sidibeng water. Our major focus was to make sure that we look at the mandates of the water boards. We also look at their financial position and governance issues, which, as we're looking at, we saw that there are challenges with governance issue, and hence the decision that we need to look into how best can we reshape and reorganize. But also, our of the other focus is making sure that we review the legislation, but also make sure that we empower the ministry in the interventions that will be able to make as and when we deliver water on the ground. There are challenges which actually have been we have seen in the water boards, especially the 2 water boards that do not have permanent boards, Amatola and Machalis, which actually is, we find it as a precarious situation, but we're working on it to make sure that in the end, we definitely will be able to have a permanent board. But within the same breath, Amatola, Lepelle, Umgeni boards do not have permanent CEOs, and when you do not have permanent CEOs, it becomes a challenge for the person acting can be able to take decisions sometimes and be able to do what is expected of them. Which actually, this we take it that if we're able to have all the boards having permanent board members and having CEOs, it will definitely go a long way in making sure that work gets done in a proper way, because as we are reviewing, we definitely need to make sure that some of these boards can be able to have footprints throughout the designated or what we are anticipating that they will be able to do. It's very good to report that despite the fact that Machalis does not have a permanent board, it's got a clean audit for the financial year. Bloom, Water, Lepelle, and Umgeni, their audit outcomes remains unchanged with unqualified report with findings. And we believe that the regress that we saw in Mhlatuze, we should be able to make sure that going forward, the unqualified with no findings come back again. Or Amatola, Overbeck, and Sidibeng, we're still awaiting the outstanding reports. There are a number of SIU investigations which are taking place. The DG will talk to that. But Chairperson, I need to indicate that the challenge and the frustration that we are seeing is the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure to the tune of 8 billion, all in all. And this is a cause for concern that we should be able to look at it and say, where has it gone wrong? Why are we seeing this type of tendencies in the boards? And lastly, Chairperson, I would want to say that this is like you're singing a song of sixpence, the municipal debts which are there, which we need to work together with the portfolio committee and see how best can we deal with the challenge of the municipal debts. And the interministerial task team set up and chaired by the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, is looking into this. But we're also saying that the Department of Public Enterprise, Finance and Water, Energy, together with us, we should be able to work with SALGA so that we can be able to find permanent solution to the debt which actually is rising, particularly on water provision by the boards. And this challenge of the debt, actually, when you look into it, it impacts negatively on a number of issues. You can talk about the safe water for drinking. You can talk about so many things that we are looking at. It is just about how can we be able to assist and deal with the situation, particularly looking at the boards, because we are re-looking at the mandate so that they can be able to work closer with the municipality in this end. On that note, Chairperson, let me, through you, invite the Director General of the Department of Water and Sanitation, Dr. Sean Phillips, to make a detailed presentation to the Portfolio Committee. Much as you're saying that it will be a long presentation, but hopefully it definitely will be able to shed light on what we are doing as the Department of Water and Sanitation. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Good morning, honourable members. Chairperson, about 30 or 40 of the slides are detailed financial slides, which we won't go through in detail, so that will help the presentation to be a bit quicker. I would just like to add a few more introductory remarks to complement those made by the Deputy Minister, and then with your permission to hand over to Eustacia Bofilatos, our Acting Chief Director for Entities, to make the presentation. Honourable members, as you're aware, the water boards are established in terms of the Water Services Act, and their role is to assist municipalities. Historically, they have focused mostly on assisting municipalities by providing water treatment and bulk distribution services. But increasingly, we are asking the water boards to do more to support and intervene in municipalities, as we focus more on trying to be more systematic and comprehensive in our support to and interventions in municipalities to turn around the deterioration in water services at municipal level. We will be increasingly requesting the water boards to help us in this regard. This is already happening. Rand Water is the implementing agent for the department in terms of its intervention in Mfuleni municipality in the Vaal. Umhlatuzi Water is our implementing agent for our intervention in Umkanyagudi in KwaZulu-Natal, and Bloem Water are our implementing agent for our intervention with regard to sanitation in Machabeng municipality in the Free State. As indicated by the Deputy Minister, we're in the process of rationalizing the boundaries of the water boards and the numbers of water boards, considering issues such as the need for them to be able to provide services all over the country in areas where their services are needed, and also considering the long-term financial sustainability of the water boards. In addition, we are also focusing on addressing some of the legacy issues with some of the big projects that the water boards have managed on our behalf. For example, as we all know, the Guyani project in Limpopo has been delayed, should have been completed a while ago. So we are working closely with Lepeli Northern Water to address that. There is progress now, and we have allocated some of our engineers to support Lepeli Northern Water to assist them to make sure that that project is completed timelessly. With those introductory remarks, Chairperson, I'd like to hand over to Eustacia, with your permission, to make the presentation. Eustacia.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, honourable members, DM and DG. I think we've gone past the overview of the water boards. The DG made remarks. I think this is an important slide around the area of where our water boards cover. We know that some of our water boards cross provincial boundaries, like Magalies, that covers parts of Gauteng, Northwest and Limpopo. We know that Sedibeng as well covers Free State, Gauteng, North and West. And Overberg is only a small little section in the Western Cape. So they are not wall-to-wall entities. Next slide. Our current water sector institutional landscape is quite complex. We have the Water Services Act that establishes the water boards, which are 3B entities. We have 9 water boards, and they do bulk water services. In terms of the National Water Act, we're establishing catchment management agencies, and they are responsible for managing water resources at a local level and ensuring that the communities and local stakeholders have say in their water resources. Under the Water Act, we also have established water user associations and transform irrigation boards to water user associations, and they are entities, voluntary entities, which support local water resource management and mostly look at Schedule 3 of the National Water Act, are responsible. In the meantime, we are busy establishing the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency, and that is a combination of the TCTA, which is established by notice under by the Minister, and we are combining it with the branch of Infrastructure Agency, and that is still underway. We also are establishing the economic regulator, although we're still busy looking at the best institutional option for the economic regulator. And we have transboundary institutions, and like the Komati, the Limcom, and Inkomaputu, and they deal with transboundary issues, and they report to the Minister after the board in terms of the various treaties. The Water Research Commission is a Schedule 3A, and it's also established in terms of its own act, which we are busy revising currently, and they support all these institutions in terms of research and innovation and knowledge management. Thank you. So our institutional landscape, as you can see, is complex, and each entity has a different role and responsibility. The DG just mentioned, next slide, the DG just mentioned that we're busy reviewing the water boards. And the water boards are, the reason why we are reviewing the water boards and the main change drivers is that because our municipal performance is weak at the moment, it compromises the effective sustainability of water services. And that means that we're not effectively ensuring that everyone gets sustainable and adequate services. In some instances, the relationship between water boards and municipalities are poor, and it's not conducive to the optimal outcome of service delivery. There's always bickering around issues, and it impacts on the local person on the ground. The financial viability of some of our water boards is marginal, and in some instances, it depends, of course, where they are, the dynamics of the area where they are, the client base. If it's in a rural area, there is an issue around recovery of payment. In addition to that, we have a challenge, and it's not only our water boards that have this challenge, is billing and revenue collection at municipal level, and the non-payment of municipalities to water boards. We know that is across most of our entities, that's one of the biggest issues. There's been we've been having a lot of governance problems in some of the water boards, and without good governance, it impacts on the effective service delivery implementation of the entities. So that's something that we have been looking at very closely. As far as possible, water boards need to be financially sustainable, and they must be able to raise capital from the market for infrastructure projects. And one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons, that we are reconfiguring and looking at the roles and responsibility is for this issue. And like I mentioned in the previous slides, that not all, the water boards do not cover the whole area, and we need to make sure that the unserved get that service. And that's why we're looking at the reconfiguration of water boards. We also have issues which cause confusion, and in some cases we have multiple water boards focusing in one area. When there's a shortage of supply or when there's a disruption, then we are not sure who's responsible for it. We know that in Hammanskraal, for example, Rand Water and Magalies supply water to Hammanskraal as well as Tshwane Metro, and then there is an issue who is responsible for the service delivery in the area. So we need to look at all our issues and try and sort them out by our new reconfiguration and roles and responsibility. As you've heard earlier on by both the DM and the DG, that we have initiated this process by the start of disestablishing Sedibeng Water, and we are doing it in terms of Section 28 of the Water Services Act. And the main reasons for that are around finance, poor governance, and of course, poor service delivery. And ultimately, those are the three key indicators for a sustainable entity. The areas that Sedibeng Water, like I mentioned earlier, Sedibeng Water covers Northwest, Bloem, and Gauteng, and we want to make sure that Sedibeng's infrastructure will be either incorporated in Bloem Water or Magalies Water. We have established work streams with all the relevant role players that are looking at each of these issues, the risks, the objectives, the infrastructure, the money, and we are in the process of the disestablishment. We're hoping to disestablish by the end of June. As you all know, I'm sure that there is a Gazette notice that was for public comment. It was, I think, gazetted on the 20th of May, and it's out for public comment on for 40 days. We have already started receiving quite a few comments, especially from municipalities that have been serviced by Sedibeng Water. The minister and the entities have been consulting with COPTA and the affected water boards and the provinces, municipalities, and the relevant unions. So there has been a very thorough consultation process that's been happening in the last 2 months. Obviously, the most important thing is that we want to minimize negative impact on service delivery. Not at no time do we want to not have water services to anyone. So it's something that we are monitoring very carefully. We're also looking, and the minister has discussed this with the chairs and with the water boards sometime in the beginning of March, is that we're looking to realign and reconfigure some of these water boards. And we have started, well, the Rand Water will service the whole of Gauteng and Mpumalanga, including Hammanskraal. We're saying that Lepelle Northern Water, its area of operation will be expanded to the whole of Limpopo, to maximize service delivery and to cover areas that were previously unserviced. The Umgede and Umhlatuzi to combine as a regional border board for KZN, and we know we need to do that in terms to strengthen the balance sheet and to ensure that we service the whole of the KZN area. We started that process in 2015, however, it was put on hold, and we are busy relooking at the best institutional option process. In terms of Amatola Water Board, our intentions are also to make it a regional water board for the Eastern Cape. Overberg Water, we all know, is a very small entity, but the minister has directed them to provide a growth strategy and to provide us with proposals. But in the meantime, directives can be issued to Overberg Water by the minister to intervene and support selected municipalities that have issues with service delivery. Of course, this is not cast in concrete. Other recommendations may be made in future, depending on the financial performance of the water boards, and also depending on the issues that I mentioned previously regarding governance and service delivery. In terms of our governance status, I think the DM mentioned that this is one of the most critical indicators of making sure that our water boards provide good services. If we look at Amatola, Magalies, and Sedibeng, we have interim boards in place. In Amatola, we've already initiated the process to start with the appointment of the board, and that should be, I think the advert should be out or is already out for getting nominations. Magalies Water, we wanted to align it with the disestablishment of Sedibeng and increasing the gazetted area of operation, and making sure that everyone is aligned, is represented, so that we have the whole area of the board, that we look at all the issues. But we have started with the process of that. In terms of Sedibeng, of course, we are busy with the disestablishment, and it's not that's not the issue at the moment. Once the boards get appointed, the CEOs will also get appointed. So the orange or the color, we will sort that out. Willapele, the minister, signed the letter to appoint the CEO, and he's probably going to start his work ASAP. In terms of Amatola Water, although it's an interim board, and we don't really want interim boards to appoint CEs, we have made exceptions on Amatola, because we need to ensure that we strengthen the capacity and capability of Amatola immediately. And once the CE is appointed, we will appoint the CFOs. Umbeni as well is in the final stages of appointing a CE. In terms of the audit fine reports for 2021, Amatola, Overberg, and Sedibeng have not yet submitted their annual report. And next slide. And the reason for that is that delays by the Auditor General have caused are causing the late submissions, and they will submit shortly. Next slide. There have been quite a few SIU investigations, and I know that the DG presented on most of these a week or two ago, and I think that's all fresh in everybody's minds. But just in terms to make sure that we've got an all-rounded presentation, there have been proclamations to certain water boards. And in terms there's a proclamation R35 for Mshatuzi Water, and it's a criminal case referred to the law enforcement. Next slide. The issue is around procurement, the allegations around procurement and processes, procurement processes for maintenance of pipes. And the outcome for that is that a criminal case has been opened, and the case was reported in Richards Bay. We also know that the DPCI are handling these criminal investigations. And we also know that 3 implicated employees of Mshatuzi Water Board resigned prior to the completion of the investigation. In terms of Lepelle Northern, we have a proclamation R22 and R27, and that was both for appointment of consulting firms. Next slide. And the issues is around no procurement process were followed, and the outcomes is that the SIU issued summons on the 26th of November in 2018. And there's a civil litigation action is set aside to a contract value of 4.1 billion. And it was the result was the contract was unlawfully and irregularly concluded. And the parties that are involved in the litigation are LTE, Carter Civils, and Mopani District Municipality, the department. And in terms of the R22 proclamation, SIU has referred evidence to the Construction and Industry Board around this towards a contravention of the CRBD. And the current status is that CIBI is conducting an investigation to the matter based on the SIU's recommendation. We know that disciplinary referral was made in respect of this, the Lepelle CEO, and he resigned before the disciplinary hearing. Also, the former NPA referral was made on the 3rd of April for the former CEO for contravening the PFMA. An NPA referral was made in respect of the official in 2018 for collusion and fraud, and in particular forgery. And there's also a disciplinary referral against the manager planning in Lepelle, and for collusion, fraud, and forgery, and he's being charged for misconduct, and is currently a disciplinary hearing that was initiated in March 2022. And the investigation has been concluded, and SIU team is finalizing the final report to be submitted to the presidency. In the next slide, the Lepelle R27 proclamation. It's around appointment of Blackhead Consulting, and the issue is around that there was no fair competitive process that was followed in awarding. Also, the initial contract was awarded to LTE and later to. So the next findings that we have, we know that there's a relationship between the directors of the two companies, and it was also found that there was no need to appoint these consultants on an urgent basis, as a project was part of the department's planning that it was already approved in 2012. So it was not for an emergency issue. The investigation, of course, is still ongoing. In terms of Umgeni, there's quite a few, but it's all around procurement processes, and the allegations are maladministration and corruption. Next slide. And the outcome of that proclamation is that already 45 individuals have been placed under. Have been looked at. Some of them have been given disciplinary and warning letters, and the 45 administration actions for placing the entity and individuals on the National Treasury database of restricted suppliers. So actions have been taken in regard to the proclamation of R4 for McGaining. The final presidential report has been drafted, and it's been reviewed before it goes to the SIU. At the SIU before it goes to the presidency. In terms of new allegations, for Lepelle Northern Water Board, there are two: the Drought Relief Technology Service and their investigation services from service providers in terms of Section 217 of the Constitution, and also that one of the service providers was appointed on an expedited basis without following proper procurement processes, and the project was not budgeted for. So the SIU has assessed this allegation and has applied to the president for the proclamation of these matters, to investigate these matters. The next slide. In terms of the Amatola, it's exactly the same. There are two allegations: the Drought Relief Technology Services, and also the investigation of the appointment of a service provider. And further allegations are that 230 million allocated to Amatola for drought relief solution, 6% was earmarked for the drought relief technology service provider, and both of these procurement processes were not budgeted for and didn't follow the correct procurement process. And the SIU is also assessed it and is applying to send it to the presidency. In terms of the financials, the revenue, the volume, and the capital projects for our entities, I'm not going to go through all these figures, but maybe talk to Overberg Water, that has the actual volumes for 2021 is 3 million kiloliters per annum, and its revenue that it receives is 89 million, and they have capex projects for 2 million. So as you can see, that's a very small entity with very little money for projects, infrastructure projects. On the other hand, if we look at Rand Water, Its actual volumes for 2021 are about 1.67 billion million kilolitres per annum, and the revenue is around, for 2021, is around 16.6 billion. And they have big, their revenue projections for 2022 is 19 billion, and we know that they have big capex projects that they're busy with and they've planned for, of around 3 billion for 2021, going up to 6 billion in 2023. In terms of Lepele, and which is the board that has got a lot of issues that needs to be finalized and completed, or a lot of water, a lot of infrastructure that needs to be finalized. The actual volumes are around 84 million kilolitres. They have a revenue projection of 853 million, and they have capex projects of about 2021 is 144 million, and 2023-24 is 83. As we can see that it has downscaled, but that is because they are still focusing on finalizing the infrastructure currently that they've been trying to implement for quite a few years. Once the institution is stabilized, obviously the capex projects around 2023-24 will be revised, and we also know that there's a keen that the minister is and the DG and the department is working towards partnerships with these water boards to assist with infrastructure establishing it. If we go to the next slide, I think this is a slide that worries everyone, and it's the slide around how much is owed to the water boards. And currently the total balance is 14 billion. We know the 120 days, older than 120 days, is nearly 10 billion, 9.7, and that is something that is very concerning. But we have been focusing, the department and our finance people, as well as the infrastructure, and the regions have been focusing on being part of a technical committee and IMC to try and lessen these debtors. We also, I'll speak about that later on, but just to give you an indication in a graphic design, if you can go to the next slide, Joy. And this is just, without looking at the values, we can see that this is quite a tragic situation. Sedibeng is the one in the blue, dark blue right on top, and its debt is growing exponentially. The more stable institutions have been trying to keep their debt at a lower level, and you can see that the Makhalis and Umhlatuzi are managing, and Umgeni are managing this process. We have to also look at Rand Water, and try and make sure that we implement our strategy for debts immediately, so that the entity sustains its strength to borrow money. If we go to the next slide, this is this slide shows you what is the impact of the non-payment by municipalities. And I know we've been speaking about this in all our portfolio committees, but just so that we can have a common understanding, is that if we don't collect our revenue, we can't sustain our business. And at the end of the day, that's a potential collapse of our institution. And we can see that with Sedibeng Water being disestablished, or as one of the main reasons being the non-payment. We know that our water trading entity is owed 23 billion as at 31st of March 2022. And and the rising is due to non-payment by the municipalities, and also what is owed by the water boards, because the water boards don't get paid by the municipalities. I've mentioned in my previous slide that the 14 billion is owed by municipalities to water boards, and we know the long term was 9.7 billion, which is an extraordinary amount. It impacts on, there's therefore, because of this, there's inadequate investment in infrastructure, and it has an adverse impact on meeting current and future increased demand of water services. Obviously, if they don't collect the money, we can't expand our infrastructure, and it also has an impact on the maintenance and refurbishment of the infrastructure. Inadequate money is allocated to operations and maintenance with a high risk of unreliable services. And we are seeing that that has been happening in Overberg and in other entities. And also by not maintaining the structure, we know that it has a negative impact on the water quality and quantity. And that is a tragic situation, because not only does it cost much more to purify the water, but it impacts on the environment, it impacts on the sustainability of our resources, and also on allocation of water, the inability to maintain a positive cash flow from projects. We know that if you cannot maintain a positive cash flow, it's difficult to, it impacts on your balance sheet, and it impacts on the growth and sustainability of the institution. If we can go to the next slide. However, we have been working hard to try and develop a solution to these problems. And like I said earlier on, it's not only the departments, entities that are in this situation, it impacts many entities. So there is a multidisciplinary revenue committee that has been established to assess the sustainability of the water services business, that is owed by the top municipalities. And they have been working together with National Treasury, COCTA, SALGA, and they have made some recommendations. However, in the last few 2-3 months, it's been very slow due to other priority issues. And it's been resuscitated by SALGA and COCTA to try and finalize the recommendations so that they can present it to the IMC. Also, in terms of the strategy to deal with defaulting municipalities, there has been a deep dive assessment on the top 43 owing municipalities to identify the structural and systemic issues underlying the debt, and that is spearheaded by National Treasury. The initiatives to reduce electricity and water debt crisis in municipalities, the installation of smart prepaid solutions, looking at other sources of energy, and we are focusing on this top 43 defaulters with initiatives to resolve and pay monies that's owed to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, both at national and provincial office. And also working together with the Responsible Citizenry campaign, because this they talk down to the local people, and we know that that's also part of a change of culture and behavior. So what is currently being done, and I've mentioned that in some of our previous slides, that some of the 43 defaulters have been placed under Section 139 interventions, where COCTA, in collaboration with the sector departments, support the municipality with the development and implementation of financial recovery plans. And our DG did highlight the issue around the VOL, around Umkanakute, around now possibly other areas. So we are using currently that method of supporting and
we're losing you. We're losing you. DG, intervene.